welcome. This is our second SSSe Spotlight Series, Lunch on a Special. And today we're featuring our amazing Joni Capobianco.
Very good.
Formerly Migliaccio. I had to learn that, but Ms. Capobianco, of AMG Demolition President and CEO, woman-owned business based in Long Island, New York. How are you today, Joni?
I'm good. Thank you, Sadiqa. Great to see you.
Good to see you. Good to have you. And we have another special guest with you today.
This is PJ Capobianco. She's
Yes.
our companion, our mascot.
Yes. Oh, she's adorable.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. It's good to have you, PJ. Look, cute little thing.
See, thanks. She is cute, isn't she?
Adorable. Yeah, so I wanted to just have a moment because I think it's so important. And you know, I've admired you over the years of knowing you, working with you, and seeing the growth and success of your company. And as for my company, how we work with women-owned business, minority businesses, DBEs, certified with the city and state of New York. And you are a prime quintessential example of a successful woman-owned business. I just wanted to get to the nitty-gritty of what it takes, and to know your story, to hear your story. So if you could tell us your
Perseverance.
Story. I know, right? And how
couple of kicks in the head.
Right. How did you become the businesswoman you are today?
So 10 years ago, I opened up AMG Demolition. My husband at the time had passed away, and I was left with 3 kids, 11, 13, and Natalie, who's was 25, who works with us currently. And we do total demolition of buildings. We work for the government. We're a WBE and a DBE. So a WBE is a state-funded projects, and a DBE is a disadvantaged business, and that's money that comes from the federal government. So we do work for New York City Transit and MTA and DASNY, CUNY, School Construction Authority. And all paths kind of led me that way, and that's a story in itself. But, you know, I was a single mom with 3 children and needed to keep the lights on, really. And that was the motivation for me because, you know, it was a hard time, a really hard time.
Yeah.
And with opening up a demolition company, and like I said, we do total demolition. We take buildings down. We do interior guts. We do mechanical machines. We do hand demo. We take out boilers and chillers and do, you know, HVAC type of removals in the city, and mostly geared towards governmental work. Like I said, we don't really do private work. And the WBE and the DBE really gave me that edge to do that type of business. This is a man's business. It's a man's world, and it always was. So without some of the organizations throughout the city that have minority and diversity and opportunities set aside and stuff like that, I would never be here.
Right.
But it was difficult, and you know, we really come across being in a man's world. You have to have a tough skin. You know, we come across everything, anything you could possibly imagine. It was a true struggle. I had the support of the agencies in the city, and you know, and that got us through. We're a union company, union labor, union operators, and 10 years later, we're doing $25 million in work within the city.
That's impressive. $25 million to get within that range of just 10 years.
Within 10 years, yeah.
Right, within 10 years. And, you know, being, like you said, it's a male-dominated industry. And, I mean, already dealing with being a single mom at the time, 3 kids. These are things that, I mean, I'm sure when people hear this, it's like, these are shots to you constantly, but still you persevered, still you got through it.
It was the motivating factor, you know. I mean,
like there was no choice.
There was no choice. And, you know, I had a very comfortable life with my husband. And when he passed, and it was sudden, you know, I had 3 kids that were emotionally destroyed. And, you know, I needed to get to that point to be able to take them, you know, through life and through the journey of life and give them a good work ethic in college and, you know, all the things that kids need, new sneakers and iPads and all this other nonsense. So, but for us, it was truly devastating at that point because it wasn't about getting an iPad. It was about feeding them and keeping the electric on. So I've been there. I've been wealthy. I've been poor. I've been This is PJ.
Hey, PJ, she's coming.
This is my best friend in the whole
I'm
world, and
telling
she
you,
comes
she's
with us everywhere.
adorable.
Um, so yeah, I mean the struggles were there, and I had a great staff. Jamie Martinishan, who handles mostly everything in the office, managerial wise. The billing and change orders and all the things that go along with that.
How many people you have in your office?
So we have 8 people that work in the office. They all have their own specific jobs, estimating or, like I said, billing and requisitions and stuff like that.
Right.
And, we have somebody that sets up all the crews and all the containers and all the equipment and stuff like that. Actually, that's Natalie, my daughter.
Right.
And she's been working with us since the
very
beginning.
Of course.
Yeah. And we probably have at any given time 100 to 120 union men working for us.
Wow.
We're privileged. We've done work for the MTA. They had a project called ESI. It was an enhancement of the station initiative, and they had a goal for minority companies. And we work with some of the best general contractors in the city and in Long Island. We mostly do our work in the 5 boroughs, though. And they gave us some opportunities that I was privileged and I had to perform.
Of course.
It's not that I'm a woman and they need to meet a goal. They need,
there's quality in the services that you provide. Your crew knows what they're doing. Things are done correctly and at the highest standard of excellence. So
we've really established ourselves, and not just as a WBE or a DBE. We really have taken on some heavy duty jobs. A matter of fact, all the platforms in the subways, we've removed all those platforms, all the terracotta walls, heavy demolition.
Wow.
By hand. At any given moment, we can get a phone call on a Friday night and say, hey, the drainage is no good over on these platforms. Can you rip it out on 4 stations?
Wow.
And sure as, 8 o'clock comes, we've got 130 guys on the site, pulling it out.
Wow.
and so on. So, I mean, it's very interesting. It's one day we could be gutting, walls, floors, ceilings over at a school, and the next day, Brew College is a great example. I mean, that was a very hard job structurally to do. I mean, we did 3 stories, sub-basements, basements, down to the footings, exposing everything while thousands of kids, were going to school upstairs. So it's, like I said, the work itself, I'm very passionate about. I love the demolition.
That. And the thing is that I see that you know what you're talking about. You're not just a pretty face on your company. You're actually in it. So I'm just curious to know, and I'm sure the audience wants to know, what is the day in the life of Joni?
Oh God.
Like what would you're actually down with the crew with the hard hats and going in. I mean, and what is it about demolition that got you so passionate about? I mean, it makes sense too, because being a woman is like, it's an industry that does not have a lot of women in it.
No, it doesn't.
And there would be a niche for that, especially with the certifications that you hold. So that was a smart move. But then, what is it personally that got you into?
Well, I have to tell you, I love the construction end of this.
Wow.
I like the demolition. Like I said, it started off as an opening, and I took that, and it just became. I was very inquisitive. I wanted to know everything, and and I want to work alongside with my men and understand what it is they're doing. You can't expect somebody to do something that you've never tried yourself.
Exactly.
We have a great engineer who, I speak with every day, and we go over it. So, he's been he's helped me so much, and he's been so informative. So, the projects are, like I said, it's one thing when you're, taking down some sheetrock, and it's another thing when you're, you
do those heavy lifting,
heavy demolition, structural demolition. So it's interesting to me, and it's every job is a struggle, and every job is a new set of problems, but it's challenging. So it's not the same humdrum. We never know what the next job is going to happen.
Right.
But I mean, I get up in the morning always with a smile on my face, and within 5 minutes that phone just starts ringing, and what problems happen, collecting money, and all the things that go along with opening, running a business. But it keeps it interesting, and
absolutely. It's an exciting lifestyle. How do you balance though the work and then the
Well,
life? Because you recently, became Mrs. Capobianco, right? Did I say it right?
Capobianco, yes,
Capobianco.
yeah.
And it was a beautiful wedding. I'm glad wasn't able to go because it was in Sicily, right?
It
In
was,
Italy.
it
Oh
was,
my
it
gosh!
was.
And I mean, I have beautiful pictures of what you sent, but I mean, it
Thank
was
you.
great just being at the party. I had a great time
And
there.
we loved having
Oh
you.
my goodness.
You know,
But tell me,
I,
yeah, how do you balance that work and that life?
Sadiqa, I didn't think it was possible. And like I said, that first 10 years, I don't think this company would have grown unless it had my 100%, 110% commitment. And there was nobody in my life. So outside of my kids. So
Right.
on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, it was family time. But I worked day and night. There would be days that I would be on the job all night and then collecting bills and then estimating new work. And I worked 20, 30, 40 hours without sleep, where my knees would start to buckle driving the car. And then I'd sleep for 3 hours and I'd sleep on the office floor if I had to and wash myself up and do it again. If at that point there was no room for anybody except work and kids, and because that's all I had for 10 years, the amount of time spent to develop it was there. Um, at that point, when I hit that 10-year mark, things started to settle down a little bit, and it was time to say, hey, things are good now.
Right.
You know, the bills are being paid. I have an income. My kids are now all settled.
Right.
Natalie's been
They're
with me.
older,
Yeah, they're older.
yeah.
Yep. Natalie's been with us now 10 years, so she works with us. Vienna graduated Loyola. She went on to get her master's at Adelphi. So she's, certified to do social work, and she's going to go on to be a psychologist. She's a certified therapist. So, she found her passion, and how I ever was able to afford the schooling and all the things that come along with it is amazing.
It's amazing, absolutely.
But she settled. And, and then Gregory opened up a pest control company, and he's always getting involved in different things, whether it's real estate or, different companies that he puts his hands in. And I think that he is that way because he watched my struggles and
Right.
he saw that work ethic
They
of what you
saw
have to
that,
do to get to that point.
absolutely. The
So,
discipline is
yeah, so when they got settled, it just was a fluke thing. Again, I'm a union company, and one day I went down to the marina. I bought my kids jet skis. That was my first big purchase of after, my working for, 10 years. And I bought the kids jet skis, and I went to put gas in them. And here this handsome man came along and offered me his life jacket, and I just thought that was very nice. And that was the end of it. And a week later, I found out that he was in the same industry. And it was just, it was instant connection, and, we wound up getting married, and we're married a year and a half. And, I have the people in play now, but if I could say anything to anybody out there starting a business, it's possible. It is possible, even doing something that is, like I said, in a man's world, in a man's business. If you have the dedication to it, and you really, really get knocked down and you get up again, and you have the perseverance, and you have the wherewithal to keep going, anybody could be successful. I mean, my mother used to tell me that, you can move mountains, and I used to look at her like she was crazy. But if you put your mind to something and you are dedicated and you put the time in, it can happen.
Absolutely.
And, we're just lucky. We had a niche. We had the MWBE and the DBE, and we had the, relationships with all the agencies across the city, and they gave us an opportunity, and we proved ourselves as contractors. And, we're here now, and we're in a comfortable place, and every day it's, busier and busier. We're growing.
And that is the truth. You talk about being knocked down, but keep getting up and doing what you have to do, regardless of the challenges that come up. And that's some of the things that I think a lot of people want to know and can relate to, the reality of business, how there's obstacles and challenges, and how did you what were some of the obstacles and challenges that you faced, and what were the lessons, or how did you overcome them, and what were the lessons learned?
Well, for us, the most important thing in my business is safety. So you have to know what can happen to prevent it from happening. So, like I said, I did a lot of certifications and schooling to bring me up to code and building codes and so on. And like I said, work alongside the men to see some of these hazards that can happen so that we can prevent them. So learning all of this new industry type of, even down to codes change all the time. You have to stay, current with those new rules and regulations and
Absolutely,
certifications
yeah,
and so on. So those were definitely challenging because as you're trying to run a business, you're actually going
yeah.
back to school to learn, what's necessary
Activity,
to
yeah,
run that business.
absolutely.
Um, I think the first couple of years was really hard because being in a man's business, I needed people to take me seriously,
Hmm.
that I wasn't there, you know, as anything less than a real contractor trying
Absolutely.
to get that first job or two to prove myself. And, men in this business and what's going on in this world today, they look at a woman for the most part as somebody they like to date, not somebody they want to give a demolition contract to. And so those
That's
first,
so true. It's so
it's
true.
so true. It's so true.
You could
And
get so many meetings over dinner and have nothing to show for it, and it's like,
and
what
I
is
could
this?
fill your I
Oh,
could fill your head with some of those
some
dinners.
stories, right?
Oh my
I'm telling you,
God.
we could write a book.
I could write a book. But again, after you finished a
Yeah.
job and then
Mhm.
you finished a complicated job,
Mhm.
it gave you a book.
Right.
And that book, took you to the next job and the next job, and you proved yourself. And but those few years is just breaking in,
Breaking in.
and they're nervous too on their
Yeah.
side because they're hiring somebody
Right. That's brand new to them.
that's brand new to them.
Never, yeah. You never know. You got to show and prove, and
For
they
us,
give you that opportunity.
right, and for us, we're a WBE or a DBE that they need the status, but they don't know, what we're worth, and so, it was a little difficult. Now it's kind of old hat, and everybody kind of knows who we are.
Right.
I think we're one of the largest small
Right.
DBE WBEs in the city.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing? Like 25 million considered small.
It's small, yeah, it's small.
I guess in the industry, wow, that's amazing though. But you're right. I mean, I guess, and that's something that we could encourage, especially those stepping into the business and starting their business as a woman-owned business or small business, that you have to prove yourself. It's going to take that time.
Absolutely.
And as a woman, there are challenges, but you just have to stand your ground and show that your worth, your capabilities, the fact that you're qualified,
Mhm.
and you can actually do the job, and then do it, and then now you've been tested and proven.
You need to be the face at the beginning. They
Yeah.
need to know who you are,
Yeah.
and they need to see you in 0 degrees out there in the mud and in the
Mhm.
dirt, so they know that you're serious
Mhm.
and that you're not just a front or a face.
Exactly.
After 10 years of doing that, now I have other people, but nobody in my office
No
does anything
questions.
without
Yeah,
without me seeing what goes
Of
on. And
course.
because you could lose it in a minute,
Yeah.
one bad accident. And these guys that work for me are like family.
Mhm.
They're like my kids. I mean, I want to see them go home to their families. I've helped them, get their first deposit on a house. And it's
That's
amazing
beautiful.
seeing, like,
It's wonderful. Yeah.
seeing these guys that came out and they were 20, 21 years old, and now it's 10 years later and they're married with children,
Right.
and they're able to afford to buy a house, and and start a life for themselves.
Right.
And their safety is everything to me. So
That is something I gotta say. Knowing you for the time that I've known you, is you're such a generous and wonderful and loving and giving person, and that's what it would make sense to be. Why you start, having a business to take care of your family, of course, but then you could also help others,
help others.
and
Yeah.
your company is doing
Yeah.
that, and that is one of the beautiful things. Just to mention to the audience at large is that you've been one of our sponsors for our SSSe Inc. Play for a Cure, which helps the kids and the youth in the communities to come out and have a fun day with the family,
And it was a great day.
Yeah, and this is something that we've been going on and on. And you stepped out of how many times you've seen me put up my little banners or showcase my events, and you came out, and not only came out, you support financially, emotionally, and mentally, just helping us to get it off the ground. So I just want to say thank you publicly,
you're very welcome.
because I appreciate that, and I appreciate your support, because it's just in you that you just exude this generosity and this love for people and caring of people, and you do that with your staff, and that's why you're
thank
so
you.
successful.
I mean, what you do is amazing, and
Blessings. Thank
you help so many people, and
Thank
so many
you.
lives in the events that you put together.
Yeah.
They could be trying, and you just
Yeah.
keep pushing
Keep
through.
pushing forward.
But you got to give back. You
Yeah.
got to give back.
That's what it's Yeah, that's why you're still here. And that I think it's about having that generosity and that quality in your business, that you're not just here to just make the 20 million, 25 million, 30 million and upward. And I definitely wish it up and beyond for that for you. It's also about giving back and remembering
Absolutely.
the struggles, remembering where where you're coming from and who helped you in that time, and that you can be that help. So it's wonderful that you're doing that for your staff, where you see the growth and the success in your employees. It's a beautiful thing.
No, I see all the time,
Yeah.
these companies, and I try to help them that are starting out, if they're the real thing,
Yeah.
and they have all the stumbling blocks in front of them, and they have everything lined up, but they just need that push.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that. I have a couple of friends myself that are women in business or construction that are trying to figure it out and get from A to B. And it gives me pleasure to help them, because I did have a couple of people that really did, step out and help me and get me from A to B to C to D. And like I said, the people that are with us now have been with us from the beginning, and we made a family. And
Absolutely.
you can't let where I am today take your eye off of the ball. And you have to remember where you come from.
Absolutely.
And it can be taken away in a minute. Like I said, one bad accident, or anything can happen.
That
So
is so true.
you got to take care of your own. And like I said, we've been very, very blessed to work with some great contractors, and for different city agencies that have been phenomenal. And we needed that edge. And like I said, the Empire State Program and all the programs that Port Authority, MTA, and so on have,
Right.
gave us that edge with the MWBE to prove ourselves.
To prove yourself. So the certification, what we've been talking about, which is MWBE, Minority and or Women-Owned Business Enterprise, are certifications that you can get certified through the state, through the city, through different agencies, and those are things that SSSe Inc. can help you on that.
And you have
and
through the years.
Yeah, and the DBE certification is a federal.
That's federal, yeah. That's
certification.
Disadvantaged Business Enterprise.
And yeah, it's based on a threshold, or is it a height or a number that you cannot pass in your business?
Yeah, it is
depending on the industry.
In the industry, it varies, but yeah,
varies.
you can't do X amount over 3-year period. But again, that was the cornerstone for us.
Right.
And it's out there. There's so much help out there.
So many opportunities to get
and how do you get it out to all these people that don't know about it? That's the most important thing. And I see you trying all the time.
Always putting out outreach programs and informing of all the events that are going on, provided by the city and the state. So yeah, these are things that are free, and opportunities that can be provided to any business in the state of New York. Takeaway from this is what I would like for you to discuss, like for business professionals, business owners working in New York. What would other business professionals, owners need to know about building a successful business in New York? What would be a takeaway that you can give to the audience at large right now? Like,
New York is a hard
especially
city.
in this climate, right?
It's a hard city to work in. Big companies that have come over from California and try to make it here in New York. And I said to them, from the beginning, you guys are out of your league here. The rules, the regulations, and they need to be put in play to keep safe. I mean, you have a building 2 feet away from you,
exactly.
that you're taking down, and there's so many people, and the streets are crowded and so on. And there's a lot of rules and regulations, and if you're not familiar with them, you're gonna fail. So you need to do your due diligence and know your area, know your territory. I do a little bit of work out in Long Island. When I go out to Long Island, it's like being in the amusement park. The rules and regulations are so different. It's so much easier to work here. But those rules are put in place because you're in a big city, like I said, with traffic and people and buildings that are, inches away from each other. So, know what your industry is before you get involved, because you could be shot down very, very quickly by not knowing the rules, the regulations, and so on. So in my pastime, instead of reading a book, I'm always reading what the new DOB regulations are, or the codes are, or the safety codes are, and every day it's something new, and they're all. I don't look at it like, it's a pain in the neck. I look at it like, that's a great idea.
Right.
Silica, you're, working with masonry, and the silica dust is worse than asbestos.
Wow.
And it has been for years and years and years.
Imagine.
And they have all these rules and regulations for asbestos.
Right, but nothing about silica.
Nothing silica.
Right.
MTA was the leader there. They said this is terrible. And now it's OSHA, and now it's a law that all contractors have to follow to protect their workers, to protect the people out in the street. So, these things you got to follow, but you shouldn't be following them once it comes into play. You should be using them as common practices in the workplace. Masks and so on, filters and keeping the workers,
it
safe.
should be something that you honestly want to be and have an interest for.
Correct.
So it's not something that's just, okay, hey,
you're forced.
Right. You're forced to know,
right?
Or you just have this fluke of an idea and you want to start something,
right?
In New York, because everyone thinks it's a lucrative place. It's fast paced, like you said. There's a lot of people here, but there's a lot of rules, a lot of regulations.
A lot of rules and regulations, and you need to
it's-
follow them, or
yeah.
you will fail. Even if you get from A to B, by the time you get to C, it'll knock you back
Look at
down.
that.
So
yeah.
it's not an easy city to have a business, but there's a lot of opportunity here.
Yeah.
You just need to know what you're doing
Gotta know
and
what
get
you're
involved
doing. Be grounded.
Yeah, and
Makes
be grounded.
sense. Makes a lot of sense. No, I really appreciate this. And like I said, I want to thank you so much for coming out and
don't be
being a part
silly.
of this. It's
I
so
appreciate
important
you
that we
inviting us.
showcase women business owners like yourself, because it's like a lot of people say the term unicorn. It's like you're it's impossible. You can't exist. How does this happen? Well, here you have it, folks. It's a real life successful business owner in a demolition. I mean, if anybody wants a demolition business, it'll be AMG Demolition, right? I'm telling you, that is an impressive rundown. And I appreciate this time with you. And I know we're going to be inspiring and motivating a lot of businesses out there that are starting out, those that are still, in business and going, and to know that you can work in government contracts and
Absolutely.
be a success.
It scared the hell out of me, Sadiqa. I remember when we first started, I said, oh my God, the paperwork.
The paperwork,
this is,
yes,
how do you
definitely
keep
with
up?
government, you got to
yeah.
deal with paperwork, yeah.
But once you learn, it's easy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It actually prevents situations like payments not coming in on time.
Right.
You work for, the private sector. How do you know you're going to get paid?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I kind of feel so much more comfortable that I went this route because, one, I'm glad I have a million rules to follow.
Gotcha.
It keeps me safe. It keeps my workers safe. And
Very
I love
true.
the fact that, once we kind of figured out all of the paperwork, that it's just a cycle to make sure payments come in regularly,
Right.
and so on. So, some of the issues that we faced, and it's in any business, is for instance bonding or being able to get a bank loan. So here you are, a new business.
Right.
You have minimal money,
Uh-huh.
and you need to be bonded to get on some of these jobs.
And bonding is a particular type of insurance that needs to be had by a
Correct.
company
Right. We
to
would
be
have
able
to bond.
secure-
Right. Bond a job.
Right.
So that there's some safety measures put
Of
in
course,
place for
yes.
the owner. And how do you get bonding? That's when you don't have any money and you don't have any past performance. So that was a little bit of a struggle.
Right.
It's kind of like you go to the bank and you say, hey, I want a bank loan, but they look at your checking account and they say you have no money,
Right.
and they're not going to give you a loan.
Not even-
Now all of a sudden, you're doing 20 million. Everybody and their mother wants to give
It's-
give you a loan. But again, there's
way tables
we found a
turn, yeah.
great bonding company that stood behind us and got us from point A to B. So that was probably one of the
like challenges in the
challenges and obstacles that were there in the beginning, that you say, okay, now I'm at a roadblock. If this is what I need and I can't get it, what do I do?
Right.
There are a lot of bonding companies out there that will help small businesses, and you really have to, get
Do your
involved.
research and
SBS has so many,
Yeah.
different resources.
And that's the SBS Small Business Services.
Correct.
Right.
Or you have a list
Well,
of things where you
we
get
have
bonding,
connections
where
with
you
them
get
now,
right.
where you can connect with
So
you, yeah.
so having somebody like you out there, people can go to you
Right.
and feed off of you
Uh-huh.
and all your knowledge
Yeah.
to get you from point A to B without having to take a year or two to figure it out on your own.
It's
So
true. It's having the right people to work with and partner with can help you navigate through the process
Absolutely.
a lot easier. And that is, one of the roles that we play, and of course the SBS and SCA and all of the MTA, they have their internal crew at DASNY. they have their crew. So it's important to understand who's out there to help you as a small business when you want to tackle the government sector. Now, the private sector, you would say it's easier once you do dabble, if you do get a job in the private
No,
sector?
we've done a few TD banks and a couple of private jobs. Yeah, I mean, you get a deposit.
Yeah, it's easier.
Government work, a deposit, what's that?
Right?
So there's some pros and cons.
Yeah.
Less rules and regulations and paperwork and so on. So we've never really got involved with that. I mean, we really have that niche. But if you were going to do private work, I don't know much about it, but
it's a lot easier from what you've experienced.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, hey, and if you've done it the hard way, getting those private
it's so
jobs,
much easier when you get something like that.
So
absolutely.
Hey, it's better to be disciplined so that when the easy stuff comes, it's like smooth sailing. It's not even
Absolutely.
a job. It's like it's done deal.
But again, I mean, that's where you come in. I mean, if you were a brand new company that wanted to get into government construction, you know that you want to go out and get a DASNY job, but what are you going to do? Start, dialing DASNY or Googling DASNY and pick up a phone.
All the paperwork,
It's a lot. So there's people like yourself out there that can say, okay, let's get you Empire State certified.
Exactly.
And you network. You're always networking. You know all of the agencies.
Always out there, yeah.
And
greeting.
what you do is very, very important to cut a lot of the time off for people.
Of course,
absolutely.
For business owners, especially knowing that they wear. I always say my clients wear a lot of hats. And it's important to have someone that knows what they're doing, that can help you be that right-hand person that can just eliminate all the headaches.
Absolutely.
Your day-to-day. So,
I wish I would have known you 10 years ago. You would have took some of these gray hairs off my head.
What gray? Get out of here. There's no gray, trust me. But again, I do thank you so much. And I truly appreciate, because this was a great, time. We didn't want to take up too much of your time, but it was a great time of nuggets. You shared a lot of hard-hitting nuggets of what it takes to build a business, what it takes to have that work-life balance, and you're putting a lot in the first 10 years, and then gave yourself a chance to then find love, and see your family grow, and
you see my smile when you see
that.
Right.
Great.
I found the perfect
Can
husband.
You say his
name? Phil.
Yes.
Yeah, he's amazing, and like I said,
a wonderful blessing for you.
It's amazing,
and you deserve this. This is the beautiful cycle of life coming, where you worked, you done what you had to do, and now you.
He was my reward.
What a reward! I mean,
and you've seen him. He's handsome, and he's warm,
man,
and he's amazing.
And he's he's the one that's lucky to have a woman like you.
Oh, thank you.
Honestly, I definitely love you. I know you give too much with you, but I thank you so much.
And good luck with the baby.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.